Ara a gine úsla, tá as orm Lord Livshire ar an cad bhúr seo, ar neo gogáil flion túil is céad, agus an céad gogáil de bhór di dacas agus I lúna éirn. Cuir an fáiltar rifcách, chuig argógáil, agus asúla gom go minic sibh tanmh as fór cuairt ar chúnta Kildara. Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as ETBI President, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all, especially our distinguished guests, to our 109th Annual Congress, the first Congress of the Education and Training Boards Ireland. I am particularly pleased to welcome you, Minister, to your third Congress as Minister. Delegates, I am privileged to be the inaugural President of the ETBI as we face into a new and what we hope will be a successful chapter in the sector's history and in the lives and times of those we serve. Our VECs have been decommissioned after 83 years of wonderful service to Irish education, and the ETB ship has unfurled its ensigns, and ETBs confidently look forward to providing a world-class further education and training service to job seekers and other learners as they seek to rebuild their lives in the wake of the worst economic crisis since the 1930s. The reconfiguring of VECs and the integration of FÁS training services into these new configurations to create ETBs bring much needed coherence to the further education and training service, and today I formally welcome those who will be transferred from FÁS to the newly blended ETB family. There have been very constructive discussions between the ETBI and FÁS around the integration process, and the positivity and can-do attitude of all involved is to be applauded. Minister, your decision to integrate FÁS training services and VECs into ETBs constitutes the most significant strategic change to education and training since the establishment of VECs in 1930. For ETBI, the integration was simply an idea whose time had come. It provides the state with the capacity to modernise and update the competences of our workforce at a time when workforce competence is both crucial to economic and social progress. Minister, member ETBs appreciate the confidence you have reposed in them, and you can be assured that they will deliver real and sustainable improvements in further education and training. Delegates, when others are writing the history of the early years of the 21st century, I'm confident that they will conclude that the Education and Training Boards Act 2013 and the Further Education and Training Act 2013 provided the architecture and impetus for Ireland's social and economic progress in the 2020s and 2030s, provided the objects of the legislation are fully realised. In this regard, we must acknowledge that legislation constitutes only the design phase of the work, and we all, ETBs, unions, SOLAS and the DES, have a huge task on hands to ensure that vision becomes a reality. As the futurist Joel A. Barker noted, vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes the time. Vision with action can change the world. Minister, now that we have the vision and the architecture that embodies it, we must resource its realisation. As the Bard himself acknowledged 400 years ago, there is a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads to fortune. Delegates, the establishment of the ETBs and SOLAS provides us with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for reforming further education and training that we must fully exploit, or the opportunity for real reform will be lost for decades to come. This reform cannot be just an opportunity to cut spending. It must, in every respect, be about improving learner outcomes in a way that will drive social and economic progress. This can only happen if the reform is appropriately resourced. Minister, the seeds of reform have fallen on fertile soils. There's a palpable appetite and commitment in ETBs to bring the reforms to a successful conclusion, by reconfiguring and reforming services and the way things are done to create and sustain a world-class further education training service. However, Minister, there is a limit to the capacity of ETBs to do more with less. While the integration of FOSS training services into ETBs will generate synergy, more resources must be allocated to ETBs if they are going to enable the thousands unemployed with little prospect of employment unless they acquire new skills to rebuild their lives. Remember, we have some 170,000 long-term unemployed, and ETB, further education and training services, are already operating to full capacity. Delegates, while there is a need for resources to employ more tutors to deliver more programs to more people, there is one area crying out for more resources, that is our adult education guidance service. The moratorium on appointments has resulted in a number of the 39 adult guidance services being left without an information officer and others even left without a guidance officer. Minister, as a matter of urgency, all vacant information and guidance posts must be filled. Furthermore, there is an urgent need to review the adequacy of the resources being devoted towards adult education with a view to significantly expanding its capacity to meet the needs of the thousands requiring information and guidance in order to make the most of the education and training opportunities available to them. The adult guidance service costs some 6.7 million euros annually, but how much does the service save the state? There are real costs to the state and to learners when people enroll in unsuitable courses and then drop out or complete courses that do not provide them with a progression route to either further education and training or more suited to their aptitudes. If we want value for money, we must ensure that adults have access to the information and guidance essential to enrolling in the courses that match their aptitudes and dispositions. Minister, we are simply arguing for efficient and effective use of scarce resources, as such investment will generate financial savings to the state. As Dr. Deirdre Hughes noted in her address to the National Conference on Guidance this March, guidance makes a difference to people's lives, and if we invest wisely in guidance, we will see economic and social returns. In this sense, the provision of information and guidance needs to be seen as a frontline service. Minister, the time has come to review the adequacy of investment in adult education guidance service and the way the service links to and with the Department of Social Protection in TREO service. It is absolutely crucial that these two services complement one another. More generally, in the wider ETB further education and training service, notwithstanding the integration of FOSS training services into ETBs, the moratorium on employment will result in key programme managers being left unfilled unless such posts are redesignated as frontline posts. I'm thinking about education officer, adult education officer, adult literacy organisers posts. But given the way the ETB further education and training services are being reformed, this list is neither exhaustive nor prescriptive. The reality is that there are some FET programs that can only be managed effectively by persons with a specific set of competences. In this context, Minister, ETBI asks that your department meet with ETBI over the course of the coming weeks to review what posts need to be redesignated as frontline posts. Unless this happens, all FET programs will not be as effective as they might be in delivering the desired learner outcomes, and scarce funds will be wasted. While the state's budgetary situation is fully appreciated, in practice, an employment moratorium or an employment control framework is a blunt instrument, and at times we need to use a scalpel to avoid collateral damage. FET is dynamic, evolving, and needs to respond continually to the overchanging needs of learners and the wider socio-economic context. Such programs need to be led by dynamic managers with appropriate competences. In this regard, ETBI welcomes the establishment of the FÁS ETB Integration Planning Unit, and hopefully this unit can assist in addressing this problem. Before leaving further education and training, I want to address the matter of apprenticeships. The current review of apprenticeships is timely in the context of the establishment of the ETBs and SOLAS. VECs and their predecessors, the Technical Instruction Committees, were centrally involved in the training of apprentices until the RTCs gained their independence some 20 years ago. Indeed, VECs were established to provide general and practical training in preparation for employment in trades, where technical education was described as pertaining to trades, manufacturers, commerce, and industrial pursuits. Once FÁS training services are integrated into the ETBs, the ETB connection to apprenticeship training will have come the full circle. Indeed, ETBI believes that ETBs are well placed to provide cost-effective, off-the-job training to apprentices in their local communities, thus reducing the cost to both the state and the apprentices. The current review of apprenticeships provides an opportunity to reform apprenticeships as an integral part of the wider reform of further education and training. Historically, we thought in terms of training apprentices, but as the Richard Review of Apprenticeships in England notes, while we must ensure that apprenticeships are training people for real and specific skills occupations, we must also ensure that an apprenticeship is broad enough to equip someone with genuinely transferable skills, skills which they will need and use in any job, and skills which will enable them to be competent and confident beyond the confines of their current job, both in their sector as a whole and beyond it. Delegates, the strong economies of Northern Europe and beyond recognise how apprenticeships can smooth the transition from education to work, and how they can accommodate males and females in a wide range of abilities and aptitudes in a wide range of career areas, from childcare, healthcare to construction, engineering, hospitality and office work. In Germany, with 340 different types of apprenticeships, apprenticeship is the route into work for nearly 2/3 of all young people. Ireland can learn from these countries about building an apprenticeship model capable of driving social and economic progress. In reforming our FET system, we can construct an apprenticeship model that encompasses all areas of work, involves an alignment between the curriculum in IoTs and that for apprenticeships, eliminating a disincentive to young people opting for the vocational route, incorporates a pre-apprenticeship program to provide an alternative route to apprenticeships for those not meeting the minimum standards for entry to apprenticeship, and accredits each apprenticeship phase so that exiting it at the conclusion of any phase has a progression route to further education and training. Delegates, we have been seduced by the promise of what a third-level education has to offer to school leavers, yet we know that a significant proportion of school leavers are unsuited to third-level studies at the time they leave school. A reformed apprenticeship programme would allow these to enter an apprenticeship on leaving school, while retaining the option of progressing to a related course in further and higher education at a later date. Minister, the integration of the FÁS training centres into ETBs gives the sector the capacity to accommodate most of the off-the-job training for an expanded range of apprenticeships with specialist input as required from the IoTs. Delegates, our over-preoccupation with school leavers going directly to third level has blinded us to the reality that the big skills challenge for Ireland will be in the area of low and medium skills and qualifications in further education and training. US studies show that even in the high-tech world, some 2/3 of all jobs will be in the mid to low range. So there's 44% in the mid-range and 22% in the low range in the US. For Europe, CEDEFOP concludes that in 2020, those with medium to low skills will still amount to 65% of those employed, 50% with medium skills and